Okay, so maybe let's just go from the beginning of this and talk to us, Isaac, a little bit about the inspiration for the film, where it came from, and going through the writing process a little bit.
That's a good question.
Thank you. I told him to say that before every one of my questions.
Well, I was always thinking of what kind of movie can I make with no money, basically. Seriously. And and one time I was at a cottage, and one of our friends told a story about another friend who had been camping and who had taken photos and came home and developed those photos and saw themselves in the photos. Basically, that somebody else had been there and like used their role and taken a picture of them. Mm-hmm. And that story probably wasn't true, but when they told it, everybody who was around was kind of like creeped out. And it got me thinking about just being alone in the woods, and I have never been to camp, and I haven't really been camping. And so it felt like something that was interesting to explore, and the kind of movie that you could make with a limited budget, which was attractive.
Yeah, maybe I'm the only person. I was a little ignorant about the premise itself, and then I think I was talking to you, right, Sydney? Yeah. And I said to myself, I'm like, I love it, and I'm like, I even totally bought that they would ship her out to an island and make her camp overnight by herself. And then Sydney said,
terrible.
Yeah, I did that because that's what they make you do. I was like, no, they don't. And yeah, so anybody else ignorant to that fact that it really does happen, you can feel like me, I guess, and that it's true. It does happen, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to throw to you. I cannot see, sorry, we cannot see very well, unless your eyes are way better than mine.
I can't see anything.
Yell at us. Even random stuff is okay. I like my dog, whatever you want to say.
Or questions about the movie.
Well, that would be really helpful, actually, yes.
What was your budget and how long did it take to make?
That's a great question.
Whoa. You said you were only going to say that to me.
We shot for 15 days, and our budget was $200, and I think we were slightly under budget. So I think we were like 196,000 or something. And we actually, then we did a pickup day we shot in August for 15 days, and then we did a pickup day in November, and we shot like 3 shots. Stuff that we just sort of felt like we had because we had edited the movie, or we needed because we had edited the movie together. But it was a very short shoot based on that small budget.
Do you feel like in that position that it kind of forces you to fuel that creativity at times? Or do you really feel like, look, it has to be structured and we don't have time to mess around, so we better be prepared and be on my A game, and then I've kind of gotten that all out of the way and I'm really prepared and focused on set?
Yeah, I would say I was really prepared. And that it would be very difficult to make a movie in that amount of time if you weren't super prepared. But with that in mind, because the nature of the movie is so small, things on the day are always happening, and so as much as you've prepared, then they come to you and they'll say like, well, you don't have the dog tomorrow, you only have the dog for one day, or like, we don't have the boats anymore, or whatever it is. So you just have to then suddenly be flexible, but you can afford to be flexible because you prepared that much. I feel like, and if you hadn't prepared, then you would kind of lose your mind, but because you're so prepared, you can say, okay, I know it's very clear to me the changes we can make to sort of make this work, if that makes sense.
Completely.
Completely, yeah.
It does, yeah. I told you I was going to say that after everything, too.
Yeah.
More. Let's get more from people in the audience. I see you out there, but I cannot see your hands.
I have a 2-part question.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
First, thank you very much for ruining any future camping trips. Did you actually film on an island, and what were some of the challenges that you had to deal with shooting in the wilderness?
That's a good question. 2 weeks we shot not on an island, we shot in Scarborough, which is like a suburb of Toronto, in just a dense park. And so the challenges we faced there, and so any shot that you saw where she's at her tent or the bad guy's at his tent, anything that takes place, basically any scene where you don't see water, we shot outside the city in a park. And the challenges were there was a train going by every 5 minutes and a plane and like another show, this show Rookie Blue shooting, and they were firing guns like all the time. And so audio was a big issue. And then for the final week of shooting, we did go up north and spent a few days at a camp. And we spent one day at a camp that was on an island. And so we tried to shoot everything, all the water stuff, in basically 2 days, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, was there more to that? What was the other part to that question? Did I?
answered it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you just wanted to mention how you ruined camping for him forever.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. Let's talk about your lead actress, Annie Clark. Does anybody know who she is? This is another thing Sydney informed me about. Does anybody know where she's from?
Degrassi.
Everyone over 25 in here is like, what? I thought, no, that's, yeah. Annie Clark as Jillian. This was one of the things, I mean, really the movie hangs on her in so many different ways. But I just thought she pulled a really strong performance out, because it's difficult to go through that kind of array of emotions and make it believable too, right? Like not just having some like, oh, here's a girl who screams great. Like she ran the gamut of emotions, and I'm with her the entire time throughout the movie. So maybe talk to us a little bit about casting her, what you liked about her, and what your experience of working with her was like.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think she's really, really wonderful. We were really lucky to have her. She auditioned for the part, which was already amazing because she was bigger. She was on Degrassi for 4 years, and she was bigger than anybody who made the movie, basically. So for her to even agree to audition was kind of a generous thing. And her audition was so amazing that we gave her the part. And it was her first film, and you know, not only just that's an intimidating thing, and she's working with somebody who's never made a movie before, so I can only imagine how sort of insecure she would have been based on that. But also she was in 100% of the scenes, kind of, or 99% of the scenes. So it was a lot to ask of her, but she was amazing. And we shot completely out of sequence, so we could be shooting something that we would have been shooting something that at the end of the movie, at the very beginning, for example, and I could have gone to her and said like, okay, you know, you're gonna have to be pretty emotional in this scene, and because I didn't really know how to tell her, like basically like it was just sort of tricky for me. I felt sort of, I was sensitive to how hard it would be for her to kind of get into all these emotional states, and she was just such a pro. I didn't have to say much. I really didn't at all, and I think I learned a lot from her actually, because she had a lot of experience. So
Fantastic, yeah. Other questions from the audience? Don't be shy.
Do you have another movie on the go?
Ah, there you go.
do you have money? Yeah, I'm writing right now. I have another movie, and will hopefully be making that movie this year to come out next year, I guess, or be finished next year. But yes, I do.
A horror movie or?
It's a thriller. It's not a horror, but it's sort of, yeah, psychological thriller-ish, same kind of thing.
Yeah, because like when I watched this, I kind of categorized it as more like that, as more kind of a psychological thriller, at least for myself, maybe just because I watch more of that genre. But it had like all the classy elements of like a Final Girl kind of film, of a slasher flick, like done in a smart way, and not in kind of a tongue-in-cheek like, oh, well, we're making fun of things now, like a Scream, or some other things that I've seen kind of like that too. So like, were you ever a fan of that stuff, or were you more like, I'm approaching this from kind of like a Hitchcock kind of aspect of, we want to make horror that's gripping and that means something to people and has emotional resonance instead of it being about boo scares and blood?
Yeah, all that, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know horror movies well enough to do some kind of parody or take on the genre, to be honest. Although I like horror movies, but I just don't know it well enough. I'm more interested and inspired by those kinds of movies, Hitchcock movies, slow movies. Not that this movie's slow, hopefully, but movies that aren't about jump scares necessarily.
Yeah.
And certainly Hitchcock is a big influence. Yeah.
Do you have like, because some people will be like, these are the two things that I'm not necessarily trying to pattern the entire movie after, but it kind of gives
feels like that though, that you're doing that.
Yeah, yeah. But was there something that you were kind of like you had in the back of your mind that you were like, this is my kind of inspiration, or this is what kind of has, gotten me to this point, or I want to try to replicate this in some way?
The movies that I watched with my DP, for example, or my producers beforehand, that I would say like were precedent movies, aren't necessarily like the movie that I made, but we were watching, we did watch Don't Look Now and Clute and Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, we didn't watch any sort of out-and-out horror movies. Even Fatal Attraction. I watched Fatal Attraction with my DP, which doesn't seem like it's anything like the movie I made. I just thought that's a really kind of successful movie in that it like moves and it's tense and you can watch it again and again. So I kind of like movies. Like I like movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's vague, but.
No, when you said Clute, I was like, actually that makes more sense than I would have thought it would have. If you would have told me before I'd seen the film. Yeah. More questions from the audience would be great. Yeah, we don't want to, make you stay here. Like, talk to us.
I
It's
do.
okay.
I do.
Yeah, he does.
Question.
Yes.
The team that you worked with, like your DP, producers, everyone, had you worked with them before, and how did you guys meet?
That's a great question. The producer I had, they're all great questions. The producer I had worked with, I had met in film school, and he produced my short films. The DP I had worked on my last 2 short films, but outside of those 2 people, I hadn't worked with anybody who worked on the film. And we didn't have very much to pay anybody, and so it was kind of like going to crew members and saying, do you have a paying job today? Or a job that pays like your actual rate? Because if not, then come work on our thing. And so it was like a satellite crew. So the cameramen, there were probably like 12 different cameramen, just because some days we'd come to set and it would be somebody else because the other guy got like a legit job. But that being said, everybody got along super well, and I would work with any of the people again, and I hope to. And it's an interesting way to work. It's maybe not the best, but I feel like I met a lot of great people. But going into the movie, I had really only worked with those 2 people.
How about shooting outdoors? Was that something that you were kind of, in retrospect, after you did it, you were like, well, I really regret this, because it's a less controlled environment, but it added so much to the film. Like, I mean, it hangs on that completely.
Yeah, it's really affordable to shoot outdoors, which helps because you don't have to light anything. So that's why we made that kind of movie. It's also tough though because your day ends when you lose the sun. So you have your day is just over at a certain point. So there's no overtime, which is great for budget, but sort of difficult for shooting. We had some unexpected rain on our second day of shooting, which was unfortunate, and then we just decided, like, fuck it, we'll shoot, and we'll just use that. Sorry, we'll just use that. We'll just
12:30, man. It's okay.
Yeah, and we're yeah, okay. And yeah, we'll just use that in the movie. We'll just make it a rain sequence, basically. So we were kind of rewriting as the weather determined or whatever, but we generally had good weather. We were very fortunate.
Other questions? Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
I have one back here.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a very tight film, and I was wondering how much editing and refining it took to get it where it is.
It took a lot. We were editing. We shot in August, and so we were done, I think, like September 1st or something, and then the editor had it for a few weeks or a month, and I saw it in October, and I think we were editing until December or, yeah, late December. But there were definitely different versions of the movie. And certain parts of the movie that changed a lot, and then certain parts of the movie that didn't change at all. But it got a lot tighter, always. Like, we dropped scenes, we dropped a lot of stuff, and not necessarily stuff that you could say like that'll be on the DVD. That's like a lost scene, but it's just sort of like lost moments. It's hard to describe, but just lost moments throughout the movie that resulted in a much tighter movie.
I mean, we're kind of discussing that a little bit upstairs too, and it feels like in a movie like this, and I mean it's almost any movie, but especially something that is about suspense and timing, it seems paramount that you really make sure that things are tight and that it works well. But it's I don't think you understand sometimes until you've had to sit down and go through it, right? And you said
we were talking about this, yeah. That you know what yeah, and you need to see it with an audience.
Yeah.
Like that is the most valuable thing, and you can read about people who don't want to test screen their movies, and we didn't really test screen per se because we didn't have people fill out cards and stuff, but we definitely held screenings for people who weren't our friends, who knew nothing about the movie, and learned a lot from those screenings. And it's really invaluable because, as we were talking about while you guys were watching the movie, there's stuff in the movie that I would fight for, or the DP or the actress or whoever would probably fight for, but then you sit down with an audience, and if that audience kind of moves in their seat during that moment, you're like, fuck, get rid of it. Just, I don't care. I don't like it anymore. I don't like it. It's gone. Get rid of it. Because you don't want anybody to be, to feel anything less than like completely engaged with your movie as much as you like the moment. It's like, get rid of it. So we had 2 or 3 test screenings through the evolution of the edit, which helped a lot in terms of like what we came to.
Excellent. More stuff. Any more stuff from the audience?
How did you find the actor who played the crazy bad guy?
That's a great story.
That's one of my questions for later on. No,
Daniel.
it's good.
Daniel's a great actor, and I didn't know him, and he works a lot. Like his first movie was Aliens. He was just in. He's in the new RoboCop. He was just in Mama. He had like a big role in Mama, which made a ton of money. And so so our casting director, I mean, that was a key role for us. And our casting director had kept putting him forward, but he wouldn't read. Like I don't know if people understand about acting. He probably would have read if we asked him to, but the way it works is such a political kind of thing. I'm getting kind of nuts and bolts here, but that. He wouldn't read for the part. You kind of some actors, you just have to offer them the part. And I was too insecure as a first-time director to just offer the part to somebody who I didn't know, who wasn't going to read. I was too sensitive to do it. He was nice enough to just kind of, but our casting director was pushing him, and she's great. So she said, well, why don't you just go meet with him and have like a coffee or a drink with him and talk about it. And so we did that. And we had like an hour-long drink with him, and just the drink was so amazing. Like his stories about all the people he'd worked with were so amazing. Just the way he was in person was intimidating. Like I was intimidated. And like I remember like the meeting ending, and like I got on the streetcar, and right away was calling the producer saying like, yeah, you have to lock it up right now. Like he's the guy. He's got to be the guy. You got to get him. So that was actually a learning curve for me of just like, it's not a pride thing. Like some people, I don't know, like he was at a level where I should have just sort of trusted that he was that good, and he was that good. Like he was awesome. I learned a ton from him. So
Daniel Cash.
Yeah.
Played Ray. More questions. Any other questions?
In the script, he was not as unhinged, I would say. So my inspiration in like the original iteration was just sort of a guy who's really normal and turns out to be sick, because I thought that would be disturbing. But the way Daniel played it was really kind of bigger than that, I would say, but in the best way. Like that, for me, making the movie, the best parts of making the movie are when things happen that I didn't imagine, as weird as that sounds. Like I was most disappointed when what I had imagined was realized, because it just wasn't as good as what other people were bringing to it. And so he was doing stuff like every time he did something in any scene, the scene would end, and everybody would look at each other, and Annie too, like the actors, everybody would be like, that was fucking crazy. Like, he is crazy. It's so good. And so I was a little bit scared while we were shooting it because I didn't know how it was all going to work out, but it was too watchable. Like, it was just so much fun watching it that I didn't want to check him at all. I didn't want to say, like, I didn't want to censor whatever he was feeling because it was just so fun for me, and it was so unexpected for everybody else that I feel like it just kind of gave everybody like an extra jolt. The other actors for sure, but then crew as well. Like, everybody just sort of felt like energy that they weren't feeling otherwise when he was acting. So it was great.
Another great question. It's very good. Anything more from the audience?
How do you find financing? How difficult is it to finance a movie like that? And how do you go about marketing it and getting it to the people?
That's a great question. You guys are going to tweet about it and stuff, so that's going to help. You know?
Please?
Yeah, please. Financing is really, really difficult. We, for this movie, went to like the public places where you would go, the government places, to get money, and didn't get that money. But we're still determined to make the movie. So we were very fortunate that we had pre-sold Canadian TV rights, which got us some money. We used that money to leverage some private money, and that private money with that TV money got us to a point where we accessed some tax credits. It was still not very much money, but it was enough to make the movie. And there's no money for marketing, basically. But we, you know, our actress has a huge fan base, and some of our other actors are known. And we sold our American digital distribution, so they're kind of pumping that. And it's really just like, I don't know, it's new for me because I haven't done it before. My producers, if they were here, could speak better to it, but it seems like it's sort of a domino thing where you have to sort of get somewhere for a couple other things to happen, and when those things happen, a couple other things happen, and yeah, we're just kind of figuring it out. I mean, I hope people find the movie. It will be on sort of iTunes and Netflix and Redbox and all of that stuff in the States, and on TMN and Movie Central in Canada, and it'll have a limited theatrical in Canada, but hopefully we can also sell international so that people can see it, you know, in the world. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the beauty of festivals like this, is you get that opportunity, for you to be able to show it to an audience, but also audiences to see things maybe 6 months or sometimes even more ahead of time of when it comes out. So you just look super cool in front of all your friends. You're like, yeah, I've seen that.
Well, and for me, this is actually like the nicest thing, because this theater thing is going away if you're a small movie, for sure. Mm-hmm. So it's really, I feel really fortunate, and I'm grateful to have been programmed in the festival, because I really value like the theater experience and watching it with people. I didn't watch it tonight because now it just kind of hurts. But
why does it hurt?
Well, because I've seen it so many times, and now all I see, like, I would only hear the things you didn't like. I would only hear when you guys were moving in your seat or whatever. It would bother me too much. But it's like a really special experience to show your movie in a theater. So yeah, I feel really grateful for like the festivals, and hopefully anything I make, I'll always try and play it in a festival.
Yeah, yeah. More? Anything more?
What did you learn about camping?
What did you learn about camping?
Nothing. I didn't camp at all. I've still never been camping.
You went to the hotel. Everybody else was in giant tents.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was at the Four Seasons, and no, yeah, not much. Actually, no, that's not true. We stayed at camps. Like when we went up north for a week, everybody stayed at a camp for 3 days at one camp, and then for 2 days on this camp on an island, and it was amazing. Like, it was so much fun. I can't even, like, we would film, and then it was just like madness, socially. It was, and yeah, it was a blast. So I can imagine, so now I feel like everybody who went to camp, whereas when I was writing the movie, I thought like, what a weird kind of insular thing and what a great place to set like a thriller. And now I feel like that was probably obviously a great experience that I've missed out on my whole life.
It depends on the person.
Yeah, I guess so.
I went to camp once and it sucked.
So there you go.
Camping with other friends, cool though. Anything more from the audience?
Maybe we got it. Maybe we did it.
I think we got it. Are you guys happy? We're good? All right. You know what? They've been troopers. I got to give it up
thanks
to
a lot
them.
for staying up for that.
Amazing.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and that's... It's really cool because I mean it speaks to the festival itself and also the people who attend it, who really you're the people that make it. So thanks on behalf of everybody involved with the festival for sticking around, for hanging out with ISAAC, for giving him some love. Oh God, I'm gonna have to sit down here for about the next 5 minutes. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys sticking around and enjoy the last couple nights of the festival as well. And thank you so much for attending solo tonight.
Thank you.
Yay!